And welcome to Overlanders, Then and Now. I'm Tom Bingle, and I'm here with my compatriot, Jim King. What's happening, Doc?
All good things, Banks, especially since today we're going to revisit our trip over to Europe way back in 1977.
Jimmy,
Our
can't
first
wait.
stop, I should say.
Yeah, can't wait. It stayed with me all these years. But first, Doc, I want to talk about the title we came up with for this blog, Landing in a Cliche. Why that title from your perspective, Jim?
Well, everything just seemed to fit into what I had read in books or seen in
Yeah.
movies, almost, well, cliche-ish. Like we landed in heavy fog. My brother Rick and his wife Cheryl picked us up at, was it Gatwick or
I believe
uh,
Gatwick, Jim.
Gatwick,
Gatwick.
Gatwick, and driving back in heavy fog on the wrong
Yeah.
side of the road, passing lorries, which I didn't know at the time what the heck those were, and it was so foggy that when we did arrive at their small town, we could have been in the middle of nowhere. I couldn't believe the next morning when we woke up and there were houses right next to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Lots of modern houses, but lots of thatched roofs too, which, talk about merry old England. It just, and that village green, remember that
Oh,
with the
Jim loved it.
maze?
Loved it.
I mean, I felt like we'd landed in a Jane Austen novel. What were your thoughts, Pinks?
A Jane Austen novel. Jim, you aristocrat. I was thinking more of Charles Dickens, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, those are
Give me some.
city-based novels. City. We're talking,
Oh,
we're
sorry.
talking country here. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Jimmy, but I just love the pride that they seem to take in their lawns and gardens. Everything's nicely trimmed as if it was a golf course. And I
Right.
remember the introduction, everybody had boxwood. And I've only seen that in Williamsburg, Virginia. But
Hmm,
so there was just a certain pride that they had. Jim, it was great seeing older people riding bikes,
that's
down
true.
country lanes and around. And the bikes were the famous British rally type. Uh, Jim, and that fog, I just love the fog. It just brings back so many memories. What a great setting. And it was neat because Rick and Cheryl, were into the British culture, and we
Right.
went on a visit down to Buckden, a smaller village, where Rick and Cheryl had purchased some sweaters from a very famous sweater maker, Mrs. Atwood. And she knits a story into each of her sweaters. And so if you love the water, you'd have a cable or a rope script. If you're longing for money, Jim, we'd have a diamond. So,
Ah, oh, there we
and
go.
Jim, I'll
And you know
never
what?
forget.
It just struck me that we're talking novelists. Her name is Atwood, Margaret
Yes,
Atwood. I don't know what her
yes.
first name was, but
Yeah.
anyhow,
Jim, Lions Inn Pub was also our first pub ever, Jim. We've heard
right.
about the pub life. And this was founded in 1490, Jim. That's 1490, 2 years
Right.
before Columbus bumped into the Caribbean and to North America. And I'll never
Yeah.
forget Rick, as we are about ready to go in, he called us out and said, "Hey, you guys come up here." So we went up, and sure enough, it was a castle at nighttime. And we walked in, and here was the castle that Henry VIII had secluded Catherine of Aragon. Turrets, a moat over it, a moat surrounding it, towers. It was just magnificent.
I have absolutely no memory of that whatsoever. A castle?
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't remember, but I do remember the Lion's Inn, of course. And as
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned, he and his Air Force buddies were into the
Yep.
pubs and into darts. In fact, you may recall that Rick had his own case, and he with great ceremony, opened it up and showed us his darts, which
Yes.
if I remember correctly, he didn't let us use. But
Jim, probably a good move since I think, if I remember correctly, historically, your first throw missed the board entirely.
well, I'm sure somebody knocked my arm.
Oh,
That had
definitely.
to be it.
The English are known for that. But it wasn't just your brother who got into the culture, Jim. Cheryl, and
Right.
top it all off, your two uh, nephews,
Nephews. Yep.
Kevin and Colin. I think age 5 and 3. They had crisp British accents.
Yeah, that was quite a household, wasn't it? I mean, Rick with his Midwestern accent, like you and me. Cheryl had a deep Texas, she's from Lubbock, Texas, had a deep Texas accent. And then, yeah, those kids, Kevin and Colin, who are now, in their 40s. I think Kevin may have turned 50. Sorry if you didn't, Kevin. Um, they sounded like little Oxford professors. It was so cute. I know that when the family moved back, they lost that accent very quickly after a
Mhm,
few
mhm.
sessions on the playground, but Cheryl still sounds like the heart of Texas.
So, Rick, Cheryl, Kevin, and Colin, if you're watching, thank you. And thank you for handling all the stuff that Jim and I took out of our backpacks as we kind of lessen all the loads. As a matter of fact, Rick and Cheryl were the ones that kind of hinted, hey, maybe you might want to get rid of some of your stuff here and
Oh
you can
yeah.
keep it at their house.
Yeah, that was nice because we brought it, we thought we were packing light, but my God, I'll bet we lost about 30 pounds between us, unloading stuff we would probably never use. That's that's very true.
Now, Jimmy,
So
let's get to the now part
good. Yep.
of this Overlanders Then and Now video. Looking back, Doc, is there any one thing that stands out that stays with you even today?
I think so. I think the one thing I remember most is that and this has become a lifelong habit, is when I go to a new place or I visit a new country, I always ask myself, could I live here? Would I be comfortable here? And it was a definite yes for that little village of Hilton, because I think it was so different. And it just opened my eyes to a different place and pace and way of life. And, it wasn't quite as
Yeah.
mechanized and people weren't in a
Mhm.
hurry. People rode bikes, as you pointed out. I thought it was great. So let me ask you this, Banks. Is there
Yeah.
anyone, one
Uh,
memory
Jim, that's
of that?
impossible for me.
I know, but
Of course,
what stands out?
the Village Green.
Yeah.
That's just that, and how it was such a center for the village.
Yeah.
Classic movie set, Jim. I'm thinking Sherlock Holmes is going to be coming out again for his evening stroll. And Doc, I'll never forget, it was so quiet. You and I could hear the TVs. They're not blaring in the houses as we would just walk on the sidewalk back to their home. And Jimmy,
Well, that you just destroyed your Sherlock Holmes motif.
Jimmy,
Anyway,
Jimmy, it was fascinating. And I didn't realize it at the time that we were there. But you know what, Doc? This was I'm rephrasing these things at the moment of nirvana for
hmm.
me in travels. It was just so special. Also, what in a secondary manner, Rick and Cheryl, stories of their journeys. Now they traveled with the U.S. Air Force, so they've been to the Middle East, Southeast Asia, all over Europe, and their stories were really helpful to help lessen the mystique, of the
Hmm.
travel to faraway lands. So that was, they dove into places and their style seemed just right for us, at least for me. It was very exciting. And then Jim, I can't forget the friendliness of the British and the warmth, literally and figuratively with friendliness. It hinted Jimmy basically at what might lie ahead. And that's Jim, that concept, they were so welcoming, so warm or interested. It never has left me because then the impression talking with people of other lands, Doc, just kind of came naturally. It was so interesting. And in the end, except for some press moments, 99% of our interactions, with people not from the United States overseas has been positive. You just have to put yourself out there and it's magic, Jimmy, what happens. And another funny thing, and I hadn't had this before, when someone would ask, where are you from? And we would say, our first answer, America. And, and
Yeah,
Jim, we were
and
different.
then they would ask, "Oh, so do you know Joe
Yeah,
so and
yeah.
so?" Yeah.
But Jimmy, at least the British, they had such a positive feeling towards us. And
Mm.
would this continue, across the continent? And Jim, as we traveled east, as we got further and further into the world, back then when we said we were from America, there was a certain immediate interest, curiosity about our land and our thinking and about just who we were. While on other continents, sometimes, Jim, we were often the first Americans they had ever met. So,
Yeah, that's true. I think that you know, we weren't quite as welcome in some other countries the further
yeah,
east we went.
yeah,
But yeah, mostly positive
yeah.
always. And that's really the great thing about traveling is the people. I mean, the
Yes.
sights are wonderful
Mm-hmm.
and but
Mm-hmm.
but it's really the people. And I do like your comment about Nirvana. I think we should include that in future videos is what was our moment of
Yeah.
nirvana,
Hmm.
because really that's what traveling's all about, is finding those moments that stick with you the rest of your
Yes.
life. And
Yes. And have some impact, Jim.
yeah, and England did for me. So,
Yes. Yes, it did. Yes, it
so
did.
wrap it up, Binks.
All right. Well, thanks, Jimmy. I mean, it was fascinating. I remember, meeting, at the bar at Nicky's, and when you threw this out about England, and going
Mhm.
to see Rick and Cheryl, and I thought, ooh, and Jimmy, that hit the home run as a great start, for us. Due to the language, and then we were able to kind of tackle things. But things definitely changed when we hit the continent. So, everyone watching, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us next time when we talk about wonderful London, then onto these British trains, and onto something very different for me, a ferry boat across the channel. And then, James, arrive into Oosten, Belgium. So until then,
Cheerio,
cheerio, everyone.
everyone. No, we almost got it that time, Binks.
Almost, Doc. All right.